Hello, my name is Michael Porfido, and tonight I'm going to be making strap handles for this shaped mug. Call this a nice little barrel mug. So strap handle is going to just have a gentle curve along the side. It's going to be relatively even from top to bottom. Perhaps it's going to get a little narrower at the base. But to make strap handles, for the 8 mugs that I have behind me, I'm going to pull a long strap of clay and then divide it up into 8 equal parts, lay it out on the table below me, and that's how you make strap handles. As opposed to a tapered handle that obviously is wider at the top and narrower at the base, again, a strap handle is going to be very even from top to bottom. So I'm going to start out with about a pound of clay, and just like pulling any other handle, you want to make sure that you keep your holding hand dry so you don't lose grip, and you're going to turn the clay back and forth so that you stretch the clay nice and evenly so you don't have one side higher than the other. So as I'm pulling this, I'm starting out with a round shape, and then I'm going to move later into a flat shape. And the clay is going to pass between, because this is a larger piece of clay, I'm going to use more of my fingers. If it was a small piece of clay, I would just use my index finger and my thumb. But you'll see that my other fingers are also going to make contact. So the goal here is to stretch the clay from top to bottom. I'm going to apply a little pressure at the top and then quickly move my hand down. I don't want to stop here. If I stop here, the clay is going to kick and I'll get a little bit of a tail at the end. If you get a tail, you just pinch that off. But if you do it too many times, you end up with too little clay at the end. So my goal is to make these about 2.5 inches long, maybe 3 inches long at the most. Lay them out on the table. I only need 8. So I am getting a little bit of a tail, but I think I can work through it. And you see at the top, I just need to make this a little thinner so that it's more balanced all the way through. I corrected that. Again, what I said before about turning my hand, my left hand, my opposite hand, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a nice even shape from side to side. If you pick up a handle and the handle has a little bit of a high side as opposed to one side to the other, it's because the potter, when they were pulling the handle, they pulled it with one strong hand and they didn't turn the handle often enough, and one side became dominant because we naturally pull and our arm moves in that kind of motion. So you have to counter that by, some people actually will use their opposite hand. I've always just used one hand. But you want to go back and forth so you get a nice even pull. So now I'm starting to get relatively narrow enough, but it's still a little thick. So I'm going to take the clay between my index finger and my middle finger. Just thin it out a little bit. Now I don't have to move necessarily quickly, but I do want to move very consistently and evenly. This is pretty good. Once I get to the bottom, okay, I don't know if you can see that with me standing behind it, but it's nice and relatively even all the way down. Now I'm going to lay these out on the table and measure them just by sight. Each one will be a beginning piece for a slightly longer handle. Again, these are going to have a nice gentle curve. The top is going to be relatively the same thickness as the bottom. Cuts better if your tool is a little damp. There we go. We're almost there. Later, when these stiffen up, they're a little bit firmer. They're not going to be too stiff. I'll round the end that I'm going to attach to the pot. I'll give you a video on that in just a moment. 2, 4, 6. Oh, we need to pull one more. Oh, it's a little bit thick there. So again, I want to pull all the way through as I'm passing past the pot. I'm sorry, past the handle. Okay. Again, it's important that I get it to the same thickness. So I just checked. The more you do it, the more your eye really starts to see a nice consistency. That's good. Always have your pants handy. There we go. That's a little thinner. So. And one more for good measure. And then I'll show you quickly, if we have time, how a strap handle and a tapered handle is going to be pulled a little bit differently. While I have the clay, I'll use it. Alright, so say I wanted to make a tapered handle out of this, perhaps, and I'll lay it out as I would. I'll lay it out over here. You'll see that I'm going to stretch the clay, and my purpose here is to make, from top to bottom, this whole handle taper so that it's not as wide at the bottom as it is at the top, but also the thickness, I want it to get a little thinner as it goes all the way to the bottom, depending on the finish that I want. Now, as I work this, again, I'm changing my hand position, so I don't want to continually, the clay would actually curve, I'll exaggerate it, but if I just continue to pull from one side, my hand motion would actually pull the clay. So that's why I alternate, so I get a nice balanced pull. Again, I'm getting that little kick, just pinch that off. Now, a way to test this, arch, so you just turn it over and you see the shape that you want. You can lay it right on the table, okay? And in a few minutes when that firms up, I can cut that, and cut this off where my fingers are, and I can attach it right to the pot. Okay? So that's a tapered handle along with strap handles. Thank you. Have a good night.